Welcome to the DWRD Net Stationery feed with your host, Derek DeWeese. This is a podcast where we talk about all things stationery, be it fountain pens, pencils, typewriters, papers, and more. So sit back and relax and enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the DWRD Net Stationery feed. Today's guest is Addy of Stationery Stack. Welcome, Addy.
Hi.
And if you're not familiar with Stationery Stack, it's one of the best accessory items I think I own. I have the tray, and I'll have a link to the video that I made about it. I love it. And tons of people in the stationery community have these trays, have these stands, and the Zoila product, which we'll talk about later, all great, made in the U.S. by Addy, and it's awesome. So I'm been looking forward to this interview for quite some time, but as we start out all these episodes, we're going to go with the getting to know kind of question of the basics. So, Addy, what have you been writing with lately? What do you have inked up?
I have about 8 fountain pens inked up right now, and I'll start off with this one because you inspired this recent purchase, and I've been pretty good not buying fountain pens, and when you're in the workshop, the time that I have to write has really minimized, and such has my purchasing. But then I caught one of your lives, and I'm like, that pen looks cool, and I had a black, all black version of it, and then ended up gifting it and regretted that. But when I saw when you had this, I was like, okay, I got to get that. And so it's the titanium spoke axle S. So this is the small one. It has a medium nib on it. And I think the greatest surprise, and I love when this happens with nibs, is that even though it's a medium, when you reverse it, it has a nice extra fine, no scruffing or roughness to it. It just writes perfectly. So it's like a 2-in-1 type of nib. Typically, you get that done with a Nibmeister, but out of the box, straight from Spoke Design, this is just amazing.
No, I actually have mine in my pocket. I had it right here. I love this. It's a smaller diameter than a lot of my pens, but there's something about it. And I actually got Matthew Chin to put a Kodachi grind on the medium.
Amazing.
And it's great. Glad to see that. I'm glad I was able to influence in some way.
Yeah. And then I just have a variety of others. I'll just let's see if you can see that there, that as well. But yeah, just a couple other pens. I have an Asvine V2 matte black with some carbon, platinum? Carbon black. A Justice. This is a funny one, kind of going to the stream that we're all on, on Tuesdays and stuff. I think Brad had mentioned that's a whatever pen. I was like, you know what? I like that pen. I'm going to ink it up. So I put, I believe that the ink is called Tortilla. It's from Tinteria's podcast. And so I really love that ink. It's just this nice shady orangey, but pale orange type of ink. And then I really at least more recently, I've been getting into some of the vintage pens. And this is an Estabrook Deluxe pen. I love the look. It's very simple. And it has a very nice extra fine nib on that. This Parker 25, this was pretty amazing. I've seen Parker 51s, I think they're called. And I like the style, but it hasn't really resonated with me. But when I saw this kind of, it has this 70s look that they were all trying to go for at the time. And I think it's amazing. I have some Fire on Ice ink in that one.
Nice.
And then I'll go to this one. This is a Sailor, I think they call it Area 51 fountain pen. I purchased it last year. It kind of goes with the brand color, but it has that nice ruthenium type of black plated, I guess, just overall trim. And I recently got some of the Beam Me Up Colorverse ink, and that was pretty cool to kind of merge those two themes together and put it into this one. And then a Franklin, I believe this is a Model 2, kind of just show this. Really cool matte design.
That is a cool material.
Very neat, very neat. And it has a Sig Fine from Franklin Christoph. Love that type of grinding design. Overall, when I pick up this pen, it feels nice. It looks beautiful. And then just the nib experience that you get is just phenomenal. So those are my currently inked pens.
I like that you have a nice variety, a couple of vintage. I got rid of most of my vintage. I have one vintage left. I have more maker pens now, but I like that there's a variety of different inks and colors. And the Asvine, one of the best inexpensive overall pens. I've got a couple of those, and they just work. And good ink volume. It's For the price, the build quality is surprising in the quality. Okay, so you kinda already went into this a little bit in terms of you have a variety of inks. Overall, are you a bottle, a cartridge, all of the above? If you had to choose, would you be bottle ink person or a cartridge person?
Mainly bottle. I don't mind the whole, and it's actually my preferred method also of filling is syringe filling wherever I can. And I just think that when you go into bottles, the variety is there already. And I save my cartridges once I use them. I just clean them out, keep them in storage, and so that I pull out a pocket pen and I want a more custom ink rather than something more on the basic side. I just fill it up with the syringe and off I go with something fun.
No, perfect sense. The only things I've been putting cartridge in lately, like when I did the video of the using starter pins for a week, only using cartridges, I was surprised at how well they actually worked. But
Yeah.
it's either blue or black. You know, you don't have much color variety and you got to have a little bit more as you go.
Yeah.
So, what about papers? What have you been writing on when you get a chance to write?
No, I think it all just depends on what it is that I'm doing. If and when I have a chance at long form journaling or writing, I do have a couple left from like the original Tomoe River filled Galen leather notebooks. I love those. Those are just perfect for that long form type of format that I want. Blank, and off I go with pretty much any fun, mainly fountain pens. I will use like a gel pen every now and then if I need to. And then other than that, um, I must have here it is. So, with the workshop and everything that's going on, I've kind of just made this, like, slip case, but every time it'll either have, like, a field notes, but basic is just 2 pocket notebooks that I'll have in there, and that is really getting more of the day-to-day done, and I don't mind that paper at all. Field notes, it just depends on what the series is that they have. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
really good paper that handles just about any pen, including a fountain pen. You're not gonna get the full characteristics of, like, a shading ink, but it gets the job done every day, notes that I need to take, and then the pocket notebook in the back, that's kind of my weekly planner. And then workshop notes, I'll have something in there that's documenting measurements, things that I'm changing, calibration, all of that fun stuff that happens in there. That's like a Leuchtturm notebook there. I don't know if that's coming through for you.
It kind of gets through. There, if you hold it like that, it shows through
Perfect,
well
perfect.
enough. There you go.
Leuchtturm just gets the job done. It takes about any type of ink, so primarily just normal gel pens and pencils in there. So that's what I'm using today.
Yeah, as I've been getting into having a shop notebook, I've been using a Grafilo A5 Slim, and I use more pencils in the garage slash shop than I do pens because any of the notes as I've advanced, I want to be able to erase and re-add it. So I have one set of notes in the right order and really liking the pencils. But in terms of paper, one thing you said with field notes, you mentioned a lot of your nibs are extra fine. Field notes is great if you're using tiny nibs. I mean, I've
Yeah,
never really had much problem with them. I've moved on to better papers as I've gone through, but I used to be like the black cover field notes. That was what I used. And the
yeah,
dot grid, that was just it. But they
yeah.
always
It
worked well
it
for
just
like the
depends on the
small
series that
nibs.
they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's really good paper, and then you'll get surprised, suddenly there's feathering from the extra fine, so
Yeah.
I don't really mind it though, it's a great notebook all around.
Yeah, it's a good format, especially for what you're talking about using it for, where something you can carry around with you so you can make notes as you're moving and not have to search for it and it's just there. But so now it's my favorite question that I've asked everybody. And it's ironic because one of the items that I would answer is one of the products you made. But what is your favorite stationery adjacent item that you use? And that's a case, a pen tray, a journal holder. What is your favorite non pencil, pen, or ink, or pen, paper, or ink that you always find yourself reaching for or using all the time?
This is actually really hard because there's so many other things, but I think what it came down to was, kinda like just a hanky, like these fun little hankies. It has your nice, cute little design, but on the other side, it's so perfect to wipe a lens down or wipe down a pen, especially, these more, like stainless steel type pens. They get a little slippery depending. So just having a nice simple hanky, and they come in fun little designs, like this is a Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn. So I kinda get a couple of these, and these are always handy when it comes to just journaling. along with that, just a nice little radio to get some classical music going. As long as there's no lyrics, everything's good.
Very similar, but I love that you say hanky because I have one I got from Nick Pasquale. It's a CVS receipt hanky,
It's cool.
and it's he found someone who makes them, and it's just like a great little thing he's including with his pins. And I fully agree. I do movie soundtracks when I'm in the shop. Movie
Perfect.
soundtracks, and as close as I can get to classical, that's not classical because classical puts me to sleep. But that comes from playing cello growing up, so that's what you get. But let's move into stationery stack. So before stationery stack, when did you get into the stationery hobby in general? How long has it been a lifetime thing, or did you find it later in life?
Oh, let's see. I think overall, I would say lifetime. Growing up, seeing my grandma just making it a daily habit to always write. I found that fascinating at like the age of 6. You'd find her at her table writing letters to family, friends in Mexico, and it was just always keeping that communication. And if she wasn't writing those letters, she was journaling. And so just to see and witness that, I was fascinated by like a nice pen, paper, and I always kinda had that intention every time I went to school, I want a nice paper, a nice pen, right? And then fast forward to just as an adult, the G2 came around, I love the G2, and one sleepless night after corporate day, just really tired but couldn't go to sleep, that's where I found just field notes scrolling on my Instagram. That led to wanting some nice roller balls and the podcast, RSVP. Erasable podcast, and then I heard about some guy named Brad who owns the Pen Addict podcast, and, like, the rest was history from there. Then that was, like, 2019.
I've always wondered if Brad has any realization that how many people through way of one podcast leads to another, leads to the his podcast. People have come into the hobby in that way because that's you're not the first. I think you might be the third or fourth person who's referenced. Yeah, I came across this podcast about pins, and then now we're being interviewed for some sort of stationery related thing. So it's just interesting to see how that works out. But okay, so you're in the hobby. When did you get to the point where you're like, hey, I like this hobby and I have an idea. I want to make a business that focuses around it. How did Stationery Stack even when did that idea come to your mind? We're like, I'm going to make this a thing.
I think as I really dedicated writing as a form of just, you know, getting away from the computer, writing and journaling, I wanted some place to I just kept running into the issue of being able to quickly grab what I wanted. Stationery, paper, pen. The good thing about fountain pens, especially, you can customize it to your liking. When it came to storage or displays, that was very minimal. It's almost non-existent. And so that kinda loomed over for a while. I came to a point in my career that I needed a sabbatical, so I stepped away from that career for a while and decided, "You know what? I'm on a sabbatical. Let me challenge myself." And I kept coming back to I just need to make something so it's easy for me to get to my desk, and I have my pens ready to write, my notebooks ready to grab, no obstacles in the way. I just wanna get into that zone as soon as possible. And so, yeah, that's where I started just designing ideas, and I started talking to family and saying, "I think I should do this," and next thing you know, I was just encouraged to just go full on in and challenge myself to touch a blade. I've never touched a blade. And so, uh, the rest is just deep diving into how to make what I've drawn on paper come to life so that I can have my pen and papers ready to go.
No, and it's amazing. So how long ago was that?
So, okay, how about this? At the launch of Stationery Stack, which was last year, February 14th, I had only been 6 months into using machines and cutting, sanding, you name it, everything, only 6 months in, so that's 2024.
That's amazing because seeing the products, like, oh, this is somebody who's been doing this forever. Oh, well, that just makes them even cooler to me. as someone who's taking on a similar new hobby of creating in the stationery world, the best thing I can do is just spend more time in the shop, just trying. Trial and error is how my brain
Yeah.
computes. But I never would have guessed that. I would have guessed you were like a lifelong woodworker who's like, I'm going to make a company that does something stationery related. I'm going to put away cabinetry. But that's amazing to like go from that idea to where you're at now in such a short amount of time. That's mind blowing and that's really cool. But
Appreciate that.
so, in my next question, I kind of just learned, were you already into woodworking or did you just kind of tackle the learning process as you go? And you already answered that. So let's move on to, how did you decide what products to launch first? I mean, obviously, you were talking about a way of storage and things to get to, but did you ask people, other people in the hobby, hey, I'm starting this thing. If you were going to buy something, what would you buy? Or did you just, roll the dice and say, I'm going to make this and see what people like?
So maybe like not the best business practice, right? Of research and development of getting that market feedback. It was more so like, look, we buy these amazing fountain pens. They're either cool looking, beautiful, shiny, there's so much art that does go into it, and that's why we're attracted to using them. And I just kept running into not being able to, like, quickly know, like, which pen case or pen roll has this pen in it. It was all stowed away in a drawer that was organized, but I didn't know exactly which roll it was. So, one day, just kind of being at my desk, it's like, I'm gonna solve this problem. This is gonna be the first one, and had roughly sketched it over time, and going back to our previous discussion of just going all in on this, I was reviewing just some ideas and I said, "This is the first one I have to do. Let's just go at it, see how it works." And overall, I would say, like, the first year of Stationary Stack was just figuring out proof of concept. This is in my head. I've made it. Anybody else interested in this thing that, like, I've made for myself? Let's just test it.
Oh, I love that. It's like the best kind of origin story of, I've found I have a problem. I'm going to solve it for myself. Because think of how many people that's a similar story. Someone sees a picture. Hey, where'd you get that thing? I want one of those. Hey, where'd you get that? And then the light bulb kind of clicks of, this could become something.
Yeah.
So that's neat to kind of do that. So I assume the tray is the first one, or was
Yes,
it
yeah.
the individual stand? Okay, so the tray was first, and then you have the like individual pin stand, which mine is not on my desk currently because I've been, whenever you do a live stream, my desk becomes a hot mess on Thursdays, and then I have to clear it off and like start fresh. But the individual pin stand, I've been using that so much because like I have, the pin of the week or the pin of the day, and like I have the spoke today and the one that I made that I'm kind of testing myself, and that's what would go on those individual stands. So those make perfect sense. But when did you stop and go, I want to do something bigger? You released the Zoila, and I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it took me forever to make sure I was, but I love the premise of that. So how did that come to be? Because you were talking about solving problems. Was that I need to have my notebooks easier to get to, or was it inspired by something else? Because I have a similar shelf that's, like bamboo that kind of slides and holds stuff, but it doesn't do it well. So at some point when, you get a restock, a Zoila's coming. But talk about the Zoila, because that's a neat product and how you were able to customize it to different sizes and whatnot. So talk through how that came to be, because it's just a unique product that I think when people see it, they're like, I must have that in one, if not two colors.
Yeah. So, I have shelves. I have, like, a nice library, and I've been tucking my notebooks in there. New purchased notebooks, I'll put them in there. But again, being at my desk, having to find the notebook that I'm actively using, and that's essentially the word that it came down to, is like, what are those active notebooks? Because it's never just one, at least for me. It's multiple different notebooks. They have a different job, or even just a notebook of stickers, washi tape, your scissors, you name it, those essential tools that you want to get journaling. I didn't wanna have to, like, shuffle through other stuff that I have there. So I left more so of, like, the other cabinets and the shelving for static stuff that I had and needed whenever I needed them. going back to and seeing that the Alfie just is working, that it's there, it's on display, you can grab and go. But then when it came to notebooks, again, leaning into the design of these notebooks, they look really nice. Whether it's Game Leather, Travelers, Nemosin, a Leuchtturm, they have really cool covers, and then you can customize them to your liking. So I wanted to also show off more of the bodies of the notebooks and not just be hidden the majority of like a little shelf on the desk. So being in the workshop, again, sketched up something pretty simple. And it's when you look at it, it looks kind of very ABC. It looks very basic. And it's intentional because it's the notebook. It's about the notebooks. It's about your clips that help you keep your notebook open. It's that drawer that when you open it, you know it has those essentials that you're actively, find yourself using more common when it comes to taking any one of those notebooks out from the Zoila. So, yeah, it came to that, I didn't want anything falling out, so that's why I put the little dowels there. So it takes or provides more so some support, but it's not also getting in the way of hiding the design of the notebooks. It's also it plays a role in holding any other accessories that you can just clip onto it.
No, and it makes perfect sense. And if you haven't seen the Zola, definitely look in the notes because we'll have a link to Addy's website and the Stationery Tech website to see pictures of all this. It's yes, it's serving the purpose of not letting the notebooks fall, but it's more of I view it more as the clip holder because if you are really doing journaling, you're going to have a traveler's clip or three. You're going to have some sort of clip or something that you have to use to hold the pages down because that's one thing I run into. All the nice, really nice notebooks. I like writing in hardcover notebooks, and if you're using them, you have to have a clip and a book weight for me because I need it to be flat for my tiny writing. I can't have it going up. And the clips are a necessity, and that's just a perfect way to get to them where they're right there. Because clips are the thing that I'm going to lose. They're going to go in a drawer. They're going to fall under the desk. They're going to end up wherever I need it. They're not going to be there. And I don't want to have to keep
They take
buying
extra
multiples.
space too, yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like, I thought it would be the opposite that you design that as the clip holder that also happens to hold the books in. Cause that's kind of how it, is perceived, at least for me when I see it. So it's a win-win, really. It's a functional, structural piece,
It was a happy accident towards the end. I was like, "Wait a minute. I can actually," because I was actually thinking of putting something on the side, maybe some sort of magnet, but if the more brass type clips, they actually they don't magnetize. Like, that's not gonna work. And then one day I think I was in a rush, I just put the clip there, I was like, "Wait a minute, that works. I just need to make sure I put enough finish on it so it doesn't easily degrade," and kind of I know folks like, the aged look, which is fine. I just want it to last a little longer, so just make sure that there's enough finish.
Natural patina and forced patina are different things. You want it to earn its
Yeah,
marks. You don't want
exactly.
it to come with pre-marked because like, oh, that now it just looks like old, but without the story to go with it.
Yeah, I leave it up to the user to add their mark on their stuff.
No, and that makes perfect sense because then if there's a mark, you're gonna see it and go, "Oh yeah, that's when I spilled my drink and it got that little bit of the stain in that corner, and that's where I tried to clip it on and I caught the corner." It adds a story for the product. You got the Zoila, you've got the Alfie, and what's the name of the individual pen holder?
Honcho.
How'd you come up with the names?
I wanted to just have fun with it. More so I'll start with Alfie. That's a nod to my grandpa, the version of his name, just, making it a little fun and shorter. And so seeing my grandpa who, again, kind of growing up with my grandparents, he was a carpenter. He loved woodworking. Anytime he'd be back there working on things. And so whenever I would work, I think of him. So I had to kind of a like that. I guess this is just my way of giving back to him. And so naming Alfie the pen tray, it's like a perfect pen is the way I put it. And then this, like an amigo, which means friend. This is your little friend on your desk that holds that one special pen that you're using actively with the note that whether it's a to-do list, a picture, calendar, anything that you can put to this slot, it's on your desk as a little friend to remind you of, whatever it is that's important. Zoila, that's another nod to my grandma, who is the journaler, who is the writer, any notes, so that I would imagine almost immediately giving that to her if I can, if she was still around and say, "Look, this is your thing to put all of your notebooks in." So, it's either that, like, some sort of connection to my upbringing around those that are important to me, or just having fun with the names like honcho, like the phrase head honcho. You just have that one pen in that pen rest for you to grab.
No, and that makes perfect sense because that's the pin. That's the one that it's in charge because it's getting used. The
Yeah,
rest are sitting over in the Alfie or in the drawer of the Zoila, but the honcho is going to be the one on the tray.
yeah,
And I forgot about the one with the little stand, but I use those Natsu to-do list cards, and
yeah,
I might have to look at getting one of those because those cards would probably fit in there perfectly. Because that's what I used for organizing this show. I have a card for every guest of, okay, I need to send them this, I need to do this, and it's my checklist for each one. And then now I have a box, hoarding all the episodes and everything. So neat little way. But you've got those products. What are some of
yeah.
the other drawings? Do you have any sneak peeks or things that are in the works, even if you don't reveal them yet? But are
Um,
there new products coming at some point?
so I'll maybe give a couple, and then one that I can't give a preview quite yet, but I'll share info on that later. But going back to, like, my usage of pocket notebooks, I want something more specific where you can neatly tuck your pocket notebooks in. If you look for solutions out there, it's like grab this little pin that just fits them a certain way, right? So this is not the official design, but this is essentially where I'm going, of where you can have your notebooks, pocket notebooks, stash them in there. These are some of my Dapper notes, who has such a great design with their cases. So I've designed it so it shows off the logo regardless of you taking it out. It's always going to be placed there. So doing something like that for them, or my field notes, again, on the desk. And this is so, like, friendly to just stow away also, and like a shelving solution as well. So this year, stepping away from, like, just full concept to just my ideas and trying to test it out, I'm doing what's called, like, remixes, taking existing products and then modifying them for stationery purposes or pen stuff. So I think a good majority of this community got into mini toolboxes. So I saw that toolbox and I was like, "You know what? I wanna customize it a little bit." So I grabbed the toolbox. Let's see if I can get it there on camera. And it made the top a pen tray, and then the second drawer is just kind of your stowaway of stuff, but then the bottom drawer has your ink sample solution holder, so it's neatly in there. They're not running all over the place and falling every time you can pick one up and then easily put it back and stow that away. This is just a remix of what I'm doing, along with taking some cool designed cigar boxes and modifying those as well.
That'll be neat. The toolbox, I have one for all my pencils. All the mechanical pencils now live in the toolbox. I've got another one literally sitting in the box, unopened to my side here. I was noticing earlier today, I was like, I need to do something with that one. But, you know, as much as I love them, I only have so much counter space in my office
Yeah.
that I can put them. And I'm like, I need to find a spot for that because I still have enough pens and everything sitting around that, pencils are in one place now, and I'm sure there's something else that needs to go into there, like production pins or like ballpoints, something like that, that it's easy to access. And then I think my wife has three of those now that she uses for one for washi tape, one in her sewing area, one for other journaling stuff. So it makes perfect sense. And like they're so practical and so inexpensive. And they actually look pretty nice and they're magnetic. So that's where I think a lot of people are going to get into the magnetic stickers to be able to go on there because then you can kind of change them out. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to put this one on there, kind of like the head honcho. You can have the head honcho sticker. So when you open up the top, you've got the one of the sticker or the magnet of the week, I guess you'd call it, stuff like that. But that's great, seeing that trend and then making it better,
Yeah.
customizing it truly to the hobby because not everybody's a maker. And if you like to tinker and make stuff, that's second nature.
Yeah, yeah.
Then there's other people who are like, there's no way I could ever do that. They would much rather just get it pre-set up, and that's what's great. You
Yeah,
know, you can go in and tinker because I know when I'm learning how to do something, I'm going to spend way too much and invest so much time. And could I have gone and bought something? Maybe, but I'd much rather sit there and try and figure it out and make my version of it. So that's neat to see that you're taking that and making a version for those people who aren't makers, who want to support your business and, be able to have the stationary stack edition mini toolbox, which
it's
is
just a
neat.
fun side quest, if you think about it, I'm already doing a form of it anyways.
Yeah.
So I just can't turn that side of my brain off where I see something, I'm like, "Hey, I can actually make that a more custom thing for us." Because the mini toolboxes are actually pretty popular in, like, camera accessories, you name it, but I wasn't finding anything specific for, fountain pen users or stationery, so that happened.
I always do wonder though, like whenever I'm in Harbor Freight, do the employees have any realization, like when people are buying multiple mini toolboxes? Because whatever your hobby is, there's somebody in that hobby
Yeah.
who's doing something crazy with the mini toolboxes. And did Harbor Freight ever have that idea of, hey, we're going to make these mini toolboxes? And then what the whole industry, cottage industry that spawned from those little
Yeah,
pieces
yeah.
of metal. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it. But so you have that's like the modified version. You have, and what else is going to be coming from the wood shop side of things? Anything, that you alluded to teasing.
So this is just like a smaller version of the Alfie. Some folks didn't want the 3. That's a more, again, trying to solve something of I wanted some pocket pens with longer pens. So this is just a more simple design. And then almost immediately when I went live with the products I was selling, I kept getting this question, kept getting this request. And I will say sometime later this year, I will definitely have a pen box. I just wanted to be happy with the design, something that I have in mind that's more tailored to what I've envisioned for that pen chest so that when you open those drawers, you have your pens ready to go for something more of a storage solution versus a display and storage. So yeah, working on that design and hopefully debut it sometime later.
No, and that's cool because it's what people want, but also I understand why you did the tray first because I like the tray. I have a box, and if I, when's the last time I opened it? I couldn't tell you. Because if it's in the box, it's stuff I'm not probably going to be actively using, and it's more of the storage. Because, like you said, once it's in a case or a box, it's out of sight, out of mind. So I've got like I have a couple of Kaleidocraft pin cubes on either side of the desk. I've got the Alfie to my little side on top of the little filing cabinet drawer thing. That's what gets used.
Yeah.
And then if it's in the box, it's probably one that needs to go on be sold, to be
Yeah. Yeah.
realistic. It's either sold or like something that was gifted that I'm not going to ever get rid of, that it needs a home. It's not like in a drawer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Or it's just not in rotation, right? You want it to just be put away for now. Yeah.
But some people, they want to go in and get it out of the box each time. So once again, customizing the hobby to what you want, how it works for you. And that's neat that you'll be able to offer that because I would much rather buy a box from someone like you who's doing it small scale. There's care going into it versus a larger entity, where quality is equal. I mean, let's be realistic. You're making quality products and still boggles my mind that you've only been doing this for like a year and a half. It kind of, that just doesn't click. It's like, it's too nice. It's like the seams on the trays are ridiculous. So,
Appreciate
I look
that.
forward to seeing as those come to be. Because
Yeah,
now I'm
everything I like all the design is intentional. I want it to be a certain way, and I have found, I wouldn't say a mentor, but just someone that I can lean on. I've had, like, 1 or 2 sessions with him on some of the woodworking knowledge that he has. But even when I went to him, I was like, "This is what I have, this is what I wanna do," and he was giving different solutions, like, "You can't do that," and I was like, I can, I want to." So I was just, like, determined that the way I want it to come out, I just have to have patience, keep testing. It can get frustrating sometimes because you're throwing away a lot of your hard work, and it's just not gonna see the day of light. But if you keep going, you're gonna find the solution, and thankfully, um, having Alfie actually with that fabric, the more quality fabric versus like a felt or something that you spray in it or 3D printed and then just inlaid in there. I didn't want any of that. I wanted quality fabric to be essentially the background to the nice pens that we have.
Yeah. I'm just sitting here picturing, as I look at the Alfie, how cool would it be to have where you can just slide your Alfie in as the drawers? And maybe that's already what you're working on, but that I think would be cool because then, oh, I'm using these pins this week. And you just pull out the green drawer and that's what goes to the side. Oh, this is the orange drawer week. And then you have a very colorful alternative, because it's kind of like a drawer. And I think that would be a neat way. To be able to force rotation because that's something I'm really trying this year is to make sure I'm using more of what I have instead of just getting new stuff. I need
Right.
to use what I have, and if it's not getting used or I don't like using it, then it needs to find a new home or something like that. I've been a lot more now that I have stuff easy to get to and it's visible, I'm using it. So
Yeah.
that's for me, that's was a problem I wanted to solve in things like your tray or the Clattercraft boxes. That's how I'm solving it by having it in front of my eyes. If I can see it, oh, I should use that one right now,
Right.
and
Right.
making sure I'm writing with them until they don't dry out. 'Cause I know we've all done it where you have, oh, I'm going to fill up all these pins, all these new inks, and you use like two or three of them. The other ones just kind of sit there in the corner, like, when's my turn? And then you go to use it finally, and it's dried out. And it's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
But so you did the California Pin Show last year, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You're doing it this year. What other shows are on the schedule? Or are you focusing on that one? Because I assume that's a more local show. And then once you've got some of the other stuff, you might look at expanding out to the more the, maybe not the full pin show route, because I don't think anybody could really cover them all, but, adding in one or two here or there.
Yeah. So last year, California Pen Show was the first one. I was only able to be there for about like a day and a half. And then I went to Paperpalooza, which was really fun, more stationery focused. And that was really fun. So this year, I definitely want to do more pen shows, but have found myself on a waiting list. Some of these are pretty popular, so they still have their original, regular vendors that they have. So hoping I can come through on some of those. If not, that's just more of an opportunity for me to double down in the workshop and growing more so the exposure more for my customers and audience and making the pen case, the pen chest, so to speak, and make sure that everything is moving in that direction. There's so many fun plans that I have for this year.
And that's a good way to approach it. Like, oh, I can't go to the show. That means it's just more time to be in the shop to make other things.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in terms of, how you've approached selling, I've noticed a lot of makers and pin makers and you being stationery maker, product maker, a lot of people are going to where they're doing kind of make up a supply and they're doing batch releases. Is that kind of your preferred way versus one ofs here or there so that, you know, people are able to, you're able to advertise, hey, I'm going to have new stuff launching at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 8th, and then people, whoever gets there and has it set, can get something, and then everybody else is like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the next one." How has that worked for you in terms of growing your business and being able to sell and have people still be able to get stuff? Maybe they might have to wait till the next release, but, has that been working out well for you?
It's been working out well, and it's more of like a default. It's just me. In the beginning, whenever I had some family to support and help me, that definitely did help over time. But everybody's busy, and this is more so. It's all me sanding, cutting. I do get raw wood and do all the resawing and all of that. So, naturally, I'm making things in batches just to help myself make the most out of the production that I'm doing. Every time I set up a machine, I'm gonna make sure I get a good amount out of that because setting up the machines, that takes time, the calibration and all of that. So I do batches whenever I do make products, and that has helped with overall, it just lends well to letting everybody know, like, "Hey, here's what I'm planning." And the response has been pretty well. I've gotten some requests for more custom work or pre-orders, but I don't want wanna be in that position where I'm having them wait a little longer because maybe a machine went down or just certain material isn't really working well. Wood can be very temperamental sometimes depending on the weather, or ink is acting funny because of the weather. Yellow, hello, mustard yellow is pretty it's annoying me right now because I want that color to work so much, but it's a problem I need to solve soon. But, yeah, the batching has worked. Um, I am getting some help, so, like, put in that GIF with the Robin Williams, dressed up as Mrs. Doubtfire. Help is on the way. So when I get that help, that's definitely gonna increase some of the batching, but I think it's a good way for folks that have had an eye on some of the products. They can start planning like, "Oh, she plans on releasing this and that and this colorway. Sign me up, like, I'm gonna be there."
No, and I appreciate that, and it's part of the hunt. It's the thrill of the hunt. Like, you gotta be ready, because sometimes you just kinda stumble into it, like, when I got my Elved from Skogsy in this last one.
Mhm.
I happened to open up my phone, I'd just come in from the garage making some pins, and I was like, "Oh, wait, there's a Elved release in 2 minutes? Huh."
Lucky.
So I hadn't planned on buying an Elved that day, but I was getting one, and I ended up and it's been great. But that was just like I hadn't even seen it because I'm trying to do less screens.
Yeah,
I'm trying to do more analog. So I just happened to, scroll. So I like that kind of thrill of the hunt because eventually I'll end up with whatever it is you know,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I would much rather wait for something like that to get what I want. I'm a big buy it once, don't buy it twice type
yeah,
person. So I'd much rather wait and just, if it's meant to be at that time, I will end up getting the whatever one in the right color, or I might get a color I didn't expect and it might become a new favorite.
yeah, yeah,
I ended up getting the green Alfie because that's what was available when I ordered it. I was like, I actually really like that green. I ended up getting a desk mat that was almost the same color green, so it was very complimentary. It worked out well. And now I'm like, that color green is really like has grown on me.
yeah,
So it's that kind of quirky thing where sometimes happy accidents, like you
yeah,
said, go the Bob Ross style, especially with colors. Happy little accident.
yeah, yeah.
So covered shows, covered that, but just the final question I kind of ask everybody: what's next for Stationary Stack?
Help is on the way. That's, like, a big one. And then another exciting thing is personalizing. They're already custom, right? You don't find these anywhere, you can't find them on the big A marketplace. These are really custom to an extent, but I wanted to take that a little further so that if you want your name, let's say you do have a brand of some sort and you wanted that etched on the side of your Alfie, on your Amigo, or a Zoila, I'll be able to do that pretty soon. I'm working on the final touches of that. I'm hoping I might be able to do that at the California Pen Show. So just right then on the spot, if you wanna engrave your name on, like, the side of the Amigo, actually, this is kind of like a small sample, but this is just the natural wood, so we'll be able to do that pretty soon. So that's on the way, and then international shipping. Again, the first year was more proof of concept, figuring out the business, setting up a lot of the logistics on the side, happens and runs everything. And I really want to I've gotten a lot of requests from international customers, but have said, "Just give me time, I'll figure it out." I didn't wanna take it lightly. I wanna make sure that if you're selecting it, you're gonna get your product safe and sound into your hands without any hassle, so international shipping as well.
No, that's great to have people of the international audience wanting your products. That has to be a cool feeling, nothing else. And I'm sure that's going to have its own challenges. That if you're making stuff that looks like this in a year, you'll knock out shipping. Because I do remember the packaging. Because I
Yeah,
don't own a Zoilo yet, but I remember seeing Brad unbox his. I was like, man, that is some good packaging because you have to make sure it's packaged in such a way that,
yeah,
we've all seen packages get thrown
yeah,
from,
yeah.
to the front porch, on all the cameras. It's like, oh, I hope that wasn't
You
fragile.
just
Addy, it's been a pleasure. I've looked forward to this. I love all your products. And now I love them even more knowing that, like, you got to where you are in such a short amount of time. That's just cool to me. I'm not gonna get over that. That is wonderful. And be sure you go check out the Stationary Stack website, and there'll be links to the Stationery Stack website, Instagram, ways to contact to see when those releases are going to happen, because you're going to have to be ready because these products are in demand and they're going to sell out quick. So make sure you're following along once they've been announced. And I don't know if they're on the website because I didn't think to look, but she has some of the best stickers. There's a dog sticker that is like one of the best Stationery Stack stickers, and make sure you pick up one of those as well because, yep, there it is. And I think, didn't you get Eric Draws to do those for you?
Yeah. Yeah, he was doing some drawing, so I had him do this first, and I was like, "Let's do my pup Chappie."
Yeah. So definitely check all that out, and, look forward for the new products once they're released, or maybe pick up the modified toolbox at some point. You're not going to go wrong. Everything is wonderful and you will definitely love it. So be sure you're subscribed to the RSS feed, or you can see the video version here on YouTube. And Addy, any last words as we sign off?
I just wanna say thank you, Derek. From the beginning of you doing your own video on the Alfie, I've gotten so much good feedback, and that was directly from you and your audience. You have a great audience. I love your podcast, getting to meet different creators and just makers in the community. That has just been when I'm in the workshop at these long hours, that's what I put on is podcast and, YouTube. So just thank you first and foremost. I really appreciate it, and your audience are amazing.
No, I appreciate it. That's wonderful to hear as well. I never really planned on this, but now I really enjoy doing it and getting to talk to people and learn stories. It's been fun on here too. So as always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode.